you, Saga. Thank you very much, Saga, and for helping to arrange this. And thank you, Mary, for those kind words of introduction. This is an exciting time to be involved in politics in America. I'll tell you that. The stakes are very high. When the stakes are high, it just there's so much more intensity on both sides. And so, what I want to do is give you a little bit about my background because if you want to know about education, I can summarize my stance on education pretty fast, and then I'll let Lance do the deep dives on that. But essentially, I grew up in California. I was born in California. I was blessed to live my entire life in California. I was gone for a few months at a time in school or in college. But I graduated here from law school in Sacramento at the University of the Pacific. McGeorge School of Law back in 1987. So that was a long, 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 long time ago. But I graduated at the top of my class. I got a great job in a big law firm. And eventually I moved to Southern California. But before then, I just want to let you know about me and my upbringing and my values, because my values really inform all of my public policy and my view of the world. So I grew up with four brothers in Redding on a farm. We had that farm until a couple of years ago, so many decades, and we spent many weekends building fences while we were in school. We often went and picked pears and sell them on the side of the road so we could have money for school clothes. We weren't rich at all. In fact, we were poor in retrospect, but we didn't know that because we were actually living our version of the American dream. And what is that dream? The dream of America. It's rooted in our Declaration of Independence and our founding, that our rights come from God. They're inalienable. They don't come from government. The right to life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. And it's important that everybody knows from our founding documents what the founding fathers meant by the pursuit of happiness. They meant the pursuit of a virtuous life, because the only way to be happy in life is to pursue a virtuous life. Now, if I had you raise your hand, I'd ask, have any of you ever done something that wasn't virtuous? And some of you may raise your hand, or all of you may raise your hand. That doesn't mean you're not virtuous people. It just means that we are human and sometimes we do things selfishly. But when we do things selfishly and not virtuously, we often feel terrible. But when we live a virtuous life and we practice hard work, delayed gratification, sacrifice, prudence, courage, like Mary Barkey does at the board, sometimes you you exercise your courage, and it's scary sometimes, but always when you're done, you're fulfilled because you know you did the right thing. And so being courageous is a virtue. And if you practice this virtuous life, you will be happy. And then in the context of our Declaration of Independence, a virtuous life in pursuing that life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, it means that if you pursue virtue in your life, you will be able to maintain your liberty. But if you become a self indulgent, hedonistic society, you will lose your liberty. And that's really frames my entire reference of government, because I don't believe that government should be doing all the things that it does today. It is far too big and it's far too involved in every area of our lives. Our founding fathers envisioned this country to be a country of self governance and a free and virtuous society. And self governance means that we take care of most of the things that happen in our life. We don't rely on government to do it. And so when you look at the federal government with a multi-trillion-dollar budget every year, 4 trillion, we keep growing and we keep spending more than we take in, even though our revenues every year are record revenues. So you would think that we could at least stop growing deficit spending with all these record revenues, but there's something that happens in a democracy, a republic, if you will, that over time you get bigger and bigger programs, and the federal government gets bigger and bigger. So I'm going to introduce to you a concept that you probably know, but I'm going to go through the basics anyway, and it's the concept of federalism. Federalism essentially says that the powers of the federal government are outlined in the Constitution. That's our governing document. That's our founding document. And whatever is not outlined and given expressly to the federal government is reserved for the states, which is why I would trust Mary Barkey with my education dollars, tax dollars, way more than I would trust somebody in Washington, D.C., who I don't know and don't know how to get a hold of. And they have no idea what's best for our community and our children. So they make decisions based upon a one size fits all national standard. And I don't believe our founding fathers ever intended that. They intended the locals to decide what's best because there's local laws, there's local traditions. And at the end of the day, you or me as a parent know what's best for our children. There's no way a bureaucrat can know what's best for our children. And that's why, the free market works and communism doesn't work, because we know what's best for our own lives, and some bureaucrat in some distant land has no idea what's better. They can only do a one size fits all. So my approach to government, and if I have the privilege of being elected to Congress, would simply be to shift as much as I can down to the states, including education dollars. I'd like to see the education dollars brought back to California. There's a lot of ways to do that. You can do it on a pro rata basis. You can do it block grants. You can do it directly to the state. You can bypass the state. You can do it to the locals like Mary. There's so many ways to do that. But I look forward to having the conversation on precisely how you do that, because I do believe that our children will be far more educated and better served if they have the dollars that are spent on education in the hands of the locals, and they have more parental involvement and control. So that's kind of it in education. A little bit broader on that is educational choice. And again, Lance is the expert here, but I believe in private schools. I started one. I believe in public schools. I went to one. I believe in homeschools. I taught in one. And I believe in charter schools that I supported legislatively in my career. And so I believe fully in school choice. And that choice can be exercised in a lot of different ways, hybrid ways. It doesn't matter. Because to me, it's like whatever the parent thinks is best for that child is the best way to educate that child. It's not up to me, and it's not up to Washington. And in reality, it's not up to Sacramento, and it's really not up to the Board of Education in Orange County. It's up to the board to facilitate that parental choice. And that's what Mary does so well with the advancement of charter schools and the like. And so that's why Lance's idea and development of education funds, Lance, what do you call them? A savings, education
savings account. Yeah,
exactly. Which essentially makes it portable. You want portability, because the worst thing you could do is keep somebody trapped in a poor performing school. And who does this hurt more than anybody else? In our culture in California, I think it hurts minority communities more than any other communities, because they're often trapped. They don't have the ability to take that money and do what's best for their own child. And so I'm a big advocate of that. A lot of that will be decided at the state level, and I'm running for a federal office, but there are a lot of dollars at the federal level that I would like to see not come back to California with strings attached. I'd like to see them come back to California without strings attached, because I do have faith that the local people know best how to spend that money. With that said, let me touch the race a little bit. Saga, how much time do I have left?
Got about a minute.
Got about a minute. I'm running against Katie Porter. She is a very talented woman, and she believes in the opposite of I do when it comes to the federal government. She believes that the federal government should be involved in virtually every area of our life. So I don't care, in my lexicon, I'm a conservative constitutional Republican. I would call her somebody who's not that, but she is on the spectrum of government growing in all cases, in all categories, whether it's healthcare or education. She wants the federal government involved in every area of our life. And I believe that that's why we have problems in our country today. We have deficit spending. We have $31 trillion We have to get a hold of all this, because I'm not going to have to pay it back. Mary's not going to have to pay it back. You are going to have to pay it back, because that's going to be a long-term debt obligation. So with that said, I look forward to answering your questions. But to summarize in a nutshell, I believe in limited government, limited to the purposes of the Constitution at the federal level, and everything else would be decided by the states. Thank you.